So today's a bit of a different episode. Got one of my childhood pals, Ross, on. We're going to chat about a few things related to cancer and the good work that Maggie's does. Um, Might be an upsetting episode to some people. If it's not for you, that's cool, but I think there's a lot of good that can come from the conversation from what
Yes.
we were chatting about, and hopefully help someone or prompt someone to take some action. So for those of you that don't know, this is Ross Gardiner. And yeah, can you just take us back to your initial diagnosis and your kind of journey till today?
Absolutely. So my story starts like maybe three years ago, 2.5 to 3 years ago, which is I was in America on holiday, really not feeling my best. Thought I was struggling with a bit of anxiety, to be honest. Came home from America and went to the GP just with some generic symptoms, which were struggling to be hungry, struggling to get any motivation to get out of bed, kind of thing. And luckily, this GP who'd been in the job for 6 weeks, so she'd just graduated and went into the GP side of things, sent me straight for a camera, so a camera up my arse and a camera down my throat, and double-ended, mate. And found a huge lump of cancer inside my esophagus and sort of stomach where they join together. So we were quite shocked. Obviously, it's not. I think something that I want to mention in this episode is that cancer affects everybody, but the type of cancer that I have had and do have is statistically for 70-year-olds. So I'm like massively outside that demographic. So I went through a journey of chemotherapy, followed by some pretty invasive surgery, which was total removal of the stomach and most of the esophagus, and then some more chemotherapy. So,
Can I just ask, with your initial symptoms, like how long did you have these symptoms before? Was it just in America for like a week or something, and then you thought, I'll go get this seen to?
yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but it was severe enough to push me to the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say is that they reckon I had the cancer for like 10 plus years before going to the doctor. So I was kind of symptomless to a certain extent.
You wouldn't know any different, really, or?
I knew there was something not right with me, but I never for a moment thought, bloody hell, it's cancer type thing.
Yeah. Okay. And then your chemotherapy, I found this interesting from chatting to you before. It was a tougher journey for you than most because you don't drink.
Yeah, this was some chat that we had in the ward with one of the nurses who realised that I was really struggling with the chemotherapy, and I've lived a really clean life. I don't drink or smoke or take drugs, and yeah, by not abusing your body means that your body isn't able to handle the toxin of chemotherapy as easily as someone like you who's a hard-nosed drinker. So yeah, I've not managed to cope with the toxins that chemotherapy gives you. So yeah, it was a bit different.
Okay. So that initial diagnosis to chemo, to getting the operation and having, is it part of your esophagus and stomach removed?
All of my stomach and part of my esophagus, yeah.
How did you find coping with that mentally, or was it all just a mad blur?
Well, the whole process, I was always... so if you're watching this or listening to this, one thing I would ask you to never do is tell someone that's going through cancer to remain positive. It's a pile of shit. And telling somebody that's got a disease that's so powerful to remain positive is just such a rubbish thing to hear. So that's the first thing I would say, is tell them to be determined, not positive. And how did it make me feel? Well, I remained determined throughout, and I still do remain determined. However, at some point, you do need help. You do need help from other people, and I guess what you're alluding to is my passion and love for Maggie's, which is a charity that was born and born in Edinburgh and now spans the UK and further afield to Asia, which is the home of anybody that's suffering with cancer or knows somebody that's suffering with cancer. It's just a really tranquil place that nurses that have worked in oncology for 20 plus years and psychotherapists can just speak to you in a normal language that you understand and just help comfort you through those moments. So to answer your question quickly, it's fucking hard. There's no two ways about it. But I've remained determined, and with the support of family, my wife Demi, and Maggie's, and all my friends around me, I've maintained that I am doing okay, I would say.
No, I love that about you. You're like, I messaged you the other night saying like a kind of unspoken admiration I had for you in terms of your strength, and you've always got humour with it. Proper ballsy guy. So for you to say that these organisations have been like a massive help to you, I'm like, wow, because this is a guy who I'd never, have this kind of image of you. And with Maggie's, like, how did you hear about that, or like?
Yeah, so Maggie's is a thing that on the wards and the chemotherapy wards they don't actually talk about that often, and they should, and the doctors should tell you and the consultants should tell you. But I basically broke down and needed help, and somebody mentioned it in passing on one of the wards, and I phoned them that evening or that afternoon and got a lovely lady called Sam, and I just said, I need help. I've always thought I'm too solid, too nails for help, but I really need help. And she gave me the strap line I've just come in, which is the strap line, and we did go in, and they've been a lifesaver.
So after you initially went to Maggie's, I'd imagine there's maybe like an initial uplift with the treatment, and then some sort of reality might hit, and you're kind of having these ups and downs. But can you talk a little bit about how Maggie's helps at different stages of your journey?
Yeah, so a journey, that's a very good word to explain what we're on at the minute. It's a journey. I class it as a roller coaster where you just have to keep holding on, and there's peaks and troughs. And to answer your question, I need to mention something else, which is post-surgery, we got some very bad news. No, we didn't we got some very bad news, but it was more the way that the news was delivered by one of the surgeons. The surgeon was struggling to deliver the news, whereby when they take an organ out, they take more than they need to. And the idea is that these are called margins, and they want the margins to be clear of cancer. But unfortunately, the margins weren't clear, which suggests that you still have cancer. There's still cancer in the margins, so at the other side they've left inside you, there's still cancer there. And he delivered that news in a very poor manner. I have so much admiration for the NHS. I love them to bits. My mum works there, one of my best friends works there, lots of people do. However, one thing that I've always criticised them on is their communication and their follow-up skills. And the reason I'm telling you that is because that was one of my darkest moments, where I went into Maggie's with my family hours after that meeting, getting told that I had months left to live. By the way, I'm 2 years after that moment now. I think that's important to know. And I was speaking to the centre head at Edinburgh at the time just about me ending everything. So something that I'm always something that people describe me in a way that I always like to be in control of a situation, and I think this might have been me being in control. I can't be in control of my treatment, I can't be in control of what happens inside my body, but I decided I'm not putting me through anymore, and I'm not putting my family through anymore if I've got months to live, so I'm just going to end it now. And Maggie's were so influential in telling me to, calm down, get your feet back on the ground, have a deep breath. There's more to this than what the surgeons told you, and there is more to it, because I'm still here talking to you, and I think, I don't think I know that Maggie's have been invaluable in that sense.
And without going into specifics, if you don't want to, how, through Maggie's support, like how long was it to change your mind, or to lift you out of that place, or what techniques are they using?
And to lift me out of the sort of the suicidal end it all
Yeah.
thoughts. I mean, it's quite It's quite a shit answer, really, but it was instant. It was literally instantly. And the reason it's instant is because when you walk into that facility, whether it's in London, Aberdeen, or Edinburgh, it's like someone's putting a big warm bathrobe around you and everything's going to be okay, and it's like your granny's giving you a hug or your mum's giving you a hug. They just have this way of presenting information in such a unique manner that makes you feel supported, loved, and understand what's going on inside your body and what the treatment plan is, because doctors are great, but they speak a load of pish in terms of their language and the words they use. It's a load of shite.
They have like a more scientific approach and not comforting and not what you need, really.
Yeah, well, they look at you as a statistic and they tell you what's going to happen based on statistics, but I'm not a statistic, I'm an individual, and they're so busy that that's the way that they communicate.
And if someone is in a, say, like a similar situation with a diagnosis and hasn't reached out for help or reached out to Maggie, was it as simple as a phone call and they asked you to come in? Is that what you said?
Well, I think, is it as simple as a phone call? It doesn't need to be a phone call. Just their strapline, just come in. That is the strapline. Just come in. You'll be welcomed by someone immediately at the door asking if you want tea, coffee, biscuits, whatever you want. And if you've not been, I'm not forcing anyone to go. There are other organisations out there, Macmillan, for example. But I just personally, I've done really great things with Maggie's, and I would just say, just try it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to have a cup of tea. It'll either be good or shite, and the chat will be good.
Okay, cool. And in terms of your, like you're saying, you like to be in control, and you have this, you've said often, like humour's a really important thing in terms of coping. I don't know if you can speak to that at all.
Well, I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, I've always enjoyed having a laugh with friends and family, and I just found that cancer is such a scary, taboo subject that we don't talk about, and I bring a lot of humour to it. So, as a couple of examples of that would be 3 days after being initially diagnosed, I decided I needed something to do. So we were down at my sister's in Kent, and I cut the grass, and it was all a drama around, oh, look at the boy cutting the grass with cancer, look at you all just sitting in your arse drinking wine watching him, just trying to bring some sort of humour around.
Right, you were saying that?
I was saying that, yeah. Another one that my wife absolutely hates was one of my best friends in Northern Ireland. His dad's a fantastic wood carpenter. I don't even know if he's a carpenter, he's just a hobbyist, and he created a wooden cockerel the size of my hand out of nothing, out of a piece of a stick that he found, and he said, look, this is a bit of luck, take it with you on your journey, and he'll be looking over your shoulder and making sure you're okay. And the whole way through intensive care after surgery, every nurse that came up to me, I asked if she liked my big cock, which I thought was hilarious, but they had no idea what I was talking about, and my wife's got her head in her hands. Just seeing the funny side of everything,
Yeah.
I feel is making light of a pretty dark situation.
So with your, when you're going through these intense sessions, and you said, I think you've said in the past, like things like music helped you as well, your humour, your family, Maggie's. Is there anything else that you think, or would you like to speak to any of them?
No. I mean, that has been what has helped me: humour, music, Maggie's, friends and family, and just that's what I kind of call my support bubble. They have helped.
Okay. And in terms of your journey, so you had your initial diagnosis leading up to the operation and using Maggie's throughout, and then is it you finished chemo and you finished your therapy, and then we had a while of kind of no news.
Yeah, so they put you they keep a close eye on you. Certainly they keep a close eye on me. Everybody's cancer and situation's different, but I was on 3 monthly, so quarterly scans, which is a CT scan, and we've been fine with them until, I think it was what you're leading on to, Daryll, is that we had a routine scan and results on Wednesday just passed, and yes, it's back for round two. So it's some cancer around, not in but around the pancreas, and it's deemed as incurable now. So there's a care plan in place though, which is good.
Yeah, and yeah, like you're saying, the taboo thing. Yeah, sorry, I don't really know what to say sometimes. With
And you host the podcast.
yeah,
Really good. We're thinking of getting a different host. I get a different host.
with your second diagnosis having been literally this week, I don't. It must be like so raw. How was Maggie's like something you turned to quickly, or what was your initial like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah, so yeah, it is raw, but through experience of having had this before, it was easier to swallow this time. I don't think I know it was always going to come back. I knew it was always going to come back. Unfortunately, it's came back a lot sooner than I wanted it to. So it was a difficult conversation with the oncology team at the Western. And to answer your question, Daryll, we walked out of the cancer centre, the cancer treatment centre in Edinburgh, and walked straight across the road to Maggie's and straight in. So, yeah, we were there within being told and being sitting and speaking to someone in Maggie's in a nice environment within 30 minutes.
Wow. It's a guy doing a Fred Durst impression just to break the tension. All right. Oh, he's ripping the piss out of us. Right, nice. Yeah, I literally, I'd heard of Maggie's before. I had no idea what they do, but that sounds amazing. It sounds like a really great organisation.
Yeah, they are. I raised some money for them the first time around. I obviously don't have hair. That's not through chemotherapy. That's through poor genetics from my father. But I lost all of my body hair during the first round of chemo, and I grew a really horrible moustache, much like yours, Daryll, and managed to raise like $3 or $4 for them back the first time. And they're solely funded by people giving them money. So whether that's fundraising or people leaving money in wills, etc., they are solely funded in that way. They get no help from anywhere else. So,
wow,
an amazing organisation.
So in terms of next steps, you mentioned the treatment plan. You're remaining determined, as you said. Like what?
Positive.
Positive.
Determined. They're just trying to catch you out. Determined is the right word. So what's happening next is what you're trying to ask.
I panicked there.
So yeah, I feel like this is the wrong word as well, but I'm lucky. I'm not lucky because I've got cancer, but I'm lucky that there's a treatment plan and they're giving it a go. So yeah, I'm going on to a really strong round of chemotherapy, which is called irinotecan, I think it's pronounced, which I'm buzzing about because it makes you shit yourself, which I've always been good at, so I'm going to get back to shitting myself. Actually, I said to my mum today, I'm going to spend a lot of time in bed. I think I'm going to get a new mattress, and she was like, be careful, you probably shit yourself in that. So I'm not getting a new mattress. So if you get any sponsors about mattresses on the podcast, I'm not interested. So yeah, there's a plan on the way forward. We're looking at chemotherapy, potentially immunotherapy as well. And then it's all about just trying as many different drugs and as many different ways of beating this cancer. They say it's incurable, but I mean, people cure cancer all the time and beat cancer. So you're not out until you're out, and that's the way I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's cool. Aye, this isn't our first time on a video together.
No.
Back in the day, Ross and I made it's like a semi-jackass video.
It was full jackass. It was great.
Daryll and Rossitron, I think it went by. We had Chappy Fart. It was like a little remote control radio that I sat in the car recording and made you run up to the house, hide the radio, ring the bell, and then run away while I just sat in the car in safety and then made fart noises.
It was great. So jackass.
yeah, that's exactly what they would do.
Yeah.
And we also had our scuffles where I think I threw sand in your eye.
Hence why we're wearing the sunglasses today, just in case he tries to get a sneaky dig in again on Cancer Boy.
And tried to hit you with a brush.
Yeah.
And for some reason you're still chatting to me, so here we are. To finish on a positive note, is there any sort of advice you would give to someone who may be sitting in a similar situation, just kind of wondering where to go next or what to do?
Yeah, so there's two groups of people that I would address that answer to. One is if you are feeling in any way unwell. We can talk about how overrun the NHS is all day long, but what they are good at is helping people that actually need help, and they will help anybody. So if you are sitting there thinking something's not right, I would really urge you to go. Cancer kills you by dominating your body. The earlier you get on top of it, the greater risk, the greater chance of survival is. So just go to the doctor, and nothing is embarrassing or off the cards. Just show them, just talk to them about what's going on. I'd really, really emphasise that, because if I hadn't gone to the doctor, I would definitely be dead, because it would have just grown and grown and grown, and to the point that it was throughout the entire body. Whereas I've been given a chance. And then the other group of people is the people that support folk with cancer, friends and family. And I've said openly since the first day I got diagnosed that it would be really easy, in inverted commas, to have cancer and not have friends and family. Of course you would be lonely, etc. And what I'm trying to mention there is the effect that it has on people. It's like dropping a pebble in some water. You see the ripple effect, and every ripple, it brings a tear to your wife's eye, or it brings a worrying thought to your mum or to your siblings, and it just really affects them in different ways. So if you are one of the people that are being affected, then ask for help. And if that's asking for help, and we've obviously laboured the point about Maggie's, but there are so many organisations there, or just go and speak to your pals or your family and say that you need help. I really hate, like, I saw on TV the other day, Danny Dyer, How to Be a Man. How about you fuck off, Danny Dyer? Like, how about you just let people be who they want to be and speak to who they want to speak to? So ask for help if you need it.
Perfect. I think we were saying before, I'm completely ignorant to all of this. So you said you had a treatment plan. How does that work? Like, are you just told what you're doing, or like, what are your options?
So you're led by the people that you trust, i.e. your consultant. So we spoke about the different options was presented to me. Option 1, chemotherapy. Option 2, chemotherapy, but a different style. And option 3, immunotherapy. So we speak about it as a team, because we are a team. Me and the oncologist are a team. And we've decided that chemotherapy is the right option, and potentially with immunotherapy, if it proves that immunotherapy would be a good option to go with. So it could be immunotherapy, chemotherapy, or a mixture of both. However, that's what the NHS offer. There are other avenues that you could potentially look at, and I am looking at, and that's not to dismiss what the NHS are doing. I think, as I've mentioned, the NHS are fantastic, and I respect them more than I would ever be able to talk about on a podcast. But there are other people out there researching other methods. So I'm looking at speaking with some private oncologists in the UK, just to see what they're doing, to get a second opinion. And what I'm hopeful is they come back and say, your oncology team and the Western NHS are absolutely smashing it. That's exactly what I would do. I'm also looking at there's a hospital in California, or a research facility in California, that are world famous, world renowned as far as I can tell, who take your cancer. So take a sample of your cancer, and I'm massively dumbing it down and probably explaining it wrongly, but the way I understand it is they put your cancer on a petri dish, they try this chemotherapy, it doesn't work, they make a new chemotherapy, and they make a chemotherapy bespoke to you and your cancer,
Okay.
which the NHS just can't offer. That's hundreds of thousands, if not more, pounds. So there are other options out there, but at the minute my number one is follow the NHS route, and on the side, either side of that, I'm looking at other alternative options.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a conventional way to talk about it, but hopefully everything you've said does help someone. I think you've got a lot of experience and wisdom from it, and a lot of knowledge that I think could help someone at any stage of the journey. And yeah, thanks for coming on. I'd really hope that your message gets out there, and you get what you want from recording this. And yeah, absolutely
Sponsorship deal for a mattress.
Yeah. A shitproof mattress sponsorship deal. And there's one story I just wanted to say about the size of your balls, shall we say. We were outside the old Blockbuster in Ayr once, and there was a few BAMs which may come as a surprise to you. And they were eating chips, and me and Ross went by We were pretty young, I think, like 10 maybe.
Yeah, I'd say 10.
And they were flinging chips at us. And I think they were about 14, 15. And they just kept flinging chips at our head and saying, "Oh, what a chip." And you were just like, "Yeah." And you just kind of barged in the middle of them, took a handful of chips and just ate them, just staring in their face and walked away like, "Cheers, man, great chips." And they were all just like fucking in shock, just standing there. And I'm like, "This is the coolest guy ever." And then I threw sand in your eyes.
Then you threw sand in my eyes.
Yeah.
I think they're getting the last laugh 'cause it's probably them fucking stinking chips that gave me stomach cancer. Classic.
Is there a better way to end than that?
Let's leave it. Thanks very much, Daryl, and
Cheers.
the rest of the team.
Touch muffs.